morning, good afternoon and good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome to RCI Mondays, and it's time for another single car championship, and this time with the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. And tonight we are bringing you round 4 from a mild Brands Hatch GP located in Kent, 3.92 kilometres in length with 9 turns. I'm your lead commentator for tonight, John Dalton. Alongside me as always is Callum Kerwin, with Ryan Gill behind the cameras, and of course next door to us as always the live stewards. Welcome everyone.
Cheers, John. Thank you. Welcome to a, as you say, rather mild-looking Brands Hatch in 19-degree air and 26-degree track temp with 0 wind. Yeah, looking forward to this one. It's going to be quite an interesting one. Obviously, big talking point of this round is no Christoph Verstappen. He has signed out from this round. We presume to focus on some of the other championships that are coming up in other series. So Jimenez up at the top of the practice times again, but not on his own. It's Marquez and Schmid up there with him. We saw in this sort of pre-qualifying practice session we've just witnessed, John.
Yeah, Jimenez with some competition tonight, not in the form of the Belgium. As you said, Christoph Verstappen has taken time out to focus on the RCI esports side of things in the Flexstream VCO series. But jumping on board tonight with Pedro Marquez down towards Paddock Hill Bend, falls away from you very nastily, as we see there. Marquez already in the gravel as he now comes up to Druid hairpin, slow corner, hairpin to the right. Want to hook it on the inside where you've got a new patch of tarmac, slightly grippier than the outside line. And now down to Graham Hill Bend as we turn left. Keep it very close to the bollards. Be very careful of track limits on the exit, as it's very, very easy to pick up a warning here as we now cut back on to the GP circuit for the long run down what is essentially the back straight, downhill, uphill the other side, under the bridge, all kinds of elevation change here tonight at Brands Hatch. And typically an old school circuit, as we see looking to the left and the right, a lot of grass, a lot of gravel and a lot of walls very close by. So driver's going to have to be very careful on pushing the limits, as Pedro Marquez all over the grass there. We want to be taking a nice tight line through this bend, all over the curb on the inside, can really push the track limits as we now head up the other side of the hill. Again, can always push the track limits on the inside. Be very careful on the outside. A touch of grass can see you spearing off into the wall to driver's left or driver's right as we now come down towards the last corner under the Pirelli bridge, as the track then falls away once again into the last corner, keeping it very tight, very tidy. Although obviously the lap 1, turn 1 incident where it ran into the gravel lap is probably invalidated. Looking at the time, and it is a 1:26.570, beaten by Matteo Schmid with a 1:26.185. First time on the board, Callum.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the track develops. Again, it's one of those things that we've been talking about through every qualifying session with these tyres coming in the last sort of 4 to 5 minutes. Obviously, Brands is quite a short track though, so going to be interesting to see if it'll actually be the last sort of 2 to 3 minutes where they can finally get in the good times. Although the track is showing as optimum, which means that the conditions are the most favourable on track for the drivers right now to set the best times. As we see Boardman going through onto the back straight and onto the part of the circuit least used. Obviously, Brands Hatch mainly known for its Indy circuit layout. Currently, with real UK racing, the GP layout is only used on specific days, which means that when teams travel there in real life, they can't actually test on the full GP circuit. They can test on the Indy circuit, and they get I believe a 20 or 30 minute session at the start of any day that uses the GP circuit for cars to go out and actually have some cycle laps. Something I've experienced firsthand. It's quite difficult to go and set a car up there in real life. Obviously no problems in the sim as Boardman comes out to round out the lap. 19 times on the board at the minute, so we'll see where he lands himself as he comes through the final corner. Quite a long drag up to the line. Some drivers prefer to hook to the inside and keep it tight up there, but he's going to the outside and goes third place, only 2/10 off, John.
Yeah, Andy Boardman, a driver we've seen really gel with the Lamborghini. He's had a few good, strong finishes. Definitely one to keep your eye on for the championship race, especially as Christoph Verstappen has signed out from proceedings. Andy Boardman there, 0.205 to find on the quickest time by Schmid, and I say that, and Venti Rachinov has absolutely smashed that time out of the water with a 1:25.145. And we do say, Callum, time and time again in these qualifying sessions, it's normally the latter laps that kind of matter. We know the Lamborghinis don't have the the tire warmers essentially that the GT3 cars have. And it's always very tricky to try and drill in a lap time as we have a few technical difficulties with Ryan's broadcasting tool. We shall cast away to some very lovely scenic shots of Brands Hatch, but the times that we normally see towards the top of the board are normally set in that latter half of the qualification when car is a lot lighter, tyres are a lot hotter, and they're kind of in that optimum window to really drill in a lap time. So just over 9 minutes to go. Vency Rachanov currently sitting at the top. Schmid just behind 0.445 to find. Andy Boardman 0.650 back into pit lane. Pedro Marquez 0.745 way out the order at the moment. Nico Kumpu finding his feet 0.832 down. Jordan Daly 0.855. Tom Shipston in P7 at the moment 0.872. Cal with 0.945 to find, and then we down in P9 before we start seeing the 1 second gap. Typically, Callum, though, towards the latter half, we've always seen that 1 second gap nearly cover the whole of split one. It's at least into the top 20s.
Yeah, it shows really how tight these cars are together and how the quality of all of the drivers that are driving that around any track this season so far. We've usually had, I believe it was the smallest amount of drivers we've had under a second is the top 18 in qualifying, and consistently having people who are on par without even setting a purple sector. However, Rachanov, all 3 purple sectors, 4 tenths up, 10th in the first sector, nearly a tenth again, 2 tenths in the last 2 sectors as well, and then bang on in the middle sectors with anyone else that's trying to battle with him. So that's an amazing lap to set right at the start of effectively a qualifying session. We'll have to see if he can go any quicker. Can anyone break into the 124s is the big question now.
Yeah, I think 124s is probably going to be possible. I reckon either Rachanov is going to find that little bit of time, or we're going to see Schmid fire himself completely up to the top end of the grid. Looked very strong in the practice servers. Was spectating, having a gander, seeing what the cars were doing, who was doing what kind of time, and Schmid absolutely fired himself out of nowhere to really set the baseline quite high, as we see Nico Kumpu there pulling to the side, allowing Jordan Daly, and I believe I would say the Volpes Simsport car in the cow livery, but I'm not spotting that car on the list, so not sure who's chosen the cow livery tonight, but someone has definitely put their money in the hat. And this man here, we all know, Callum, me and you, Kala Tayud has crossed the line to set a 1 minute 25.570, and Ryan Gill, I really hate you for that. Jose Jimenez pulls off to find himself back to the pit lane. Jordan Daly runs himself wide in the Triple R car, invalidating his lap. Was looking quite good on the Delta up until that point. Best lap currently for Daly is a 1:26 dead, so a big chunk of time to find for him. And Les Stevenson, another RCI staff member, down in P20 for dropping the hammer racing. Les looking like he's going to be fairly competitive with the drivers around him. To be fair, he's not too far off gaining a good 3 or 4 positions if he really sets a lap in, Callum.
That's the thing especially with this series, as we mentioned, with everyone being so close. You gain a tenth of a second, you can jump 2 or 3 positions quite quickly. But again, Brands Hatch, we're seeing quite a lot of people run wide. You're running onto grass, you're running onto gravel. It's really a hard circuit to push on, because that little bit of pushing too hard and you invalidate your lap time, as we see Stevenson coming across the line to, again, jump a couple of positions up with a couple of tenths gain, now 1.4 seconds off the pace set by Rachanov. Still in the 125s, no one's gone quicker.
Yeah, Rachanov setting that very early lap time. We did say, the times tend to come towards the end of the session, but Rachanov chucking that lap in the bag very early, and no one has beaten it yet. Our very own RCI Carlos has come close. Still 4 tenths to find, at least, on that time. Pedro Marquez for the Sims and Riggs team in the 182, coming under the bridge towards the final corner. That is Clark Curve. I've finally realised to bring up a track map, which is the one thing I forgot in the hurry for the broadcast today. Comes across the line, down the Brabham straight, does does improve up into P2 with a 1:25.462, just under 5 minutes to go. So Pedro Marquez is going to have another 2, maybe even 3 shots at it.
But there's still 3/10 off Rachinov. Can anyone even beat that time now? I mean, as we cut to Areza, who's coming down the back straight, it's still 1.2 off. I'm wondering if anyone is actually going to be close this time from Rachinov at the end of the session. It's going to be a very, very interesting thing that we haven't seen before, with someone being 3/10 clear in a qualifying session.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Jose Jimenez pull, 3 to 4 to half a second over the course of a race pace, but yeah, the qualifying has typically always been fairly close here, as we see a yellow flag chucked out for another car heading back to the pit lane. John Aracer in the 699, big gap of clean air ahead of him, has plenty of run up to the line. Looking at his lap so far, it's looking pretty good in the first couple of sectors, runs a little bit wide in the last corner, going to compromise his run to the line, and he just bleeds away time, but it is enough for a small improvement with a 1:26.277, although we did see him at least 0.3 up, so he's got a good couple more positions to gain there. And we're seeing the gap be fairly small now. We're down to the top 12, covered by just over a second, and then when you look down between the bottom 12 and the last car on the board, Daniel Martinez, it's under a second again, as Jose Jimenez now comes towards the line. No improvement to be had there with a 1:26.107, although just over 3 minutes on the clock. He's still going to have at least 2 stabs at this one.
Yeah, at least a couple of stabs as we see him breaking down into this very, very tricky air, but important not to take too much curve on the inside there, because the bubbles really upset the car as he comes down through Paddock Hill, I believe. I'm trying to remember the corner names from when I've been at Brands, because I, like you, did not pull up a track map. Jose Jimenez 5.22 seconds off the pace, usually, as we say, right up there at the top. But obviously, can come quite close, as I thank you, John, for sending me a lovely track map from Wikipedia, so I can stop making a fool of myself and naming corners probably incorrectly.
That's it.
As we see him come through Hawthorns and down towards the corner of Westfield, rounding out the sort of mid part of this final sector, as we run quite wide. A lot of the drivers not afraid to dip 2 wheels onto the grass. We're seeing as he comes through Sheen Curve and down into the tricky corner. That is Sterling's really important not to take too much inside curve there, because it will spit you off into the grass on the outside, down under the bridge, in through Clearways and Clark Curve to round off the lap. Will this be able to be any closer? Marquez has gone 2/10 off Rachinov at the top of the times. Only a couple more stabs at it now after this for Jimenez. As he does, he moves just under 3/10 off, currently in 3rd place, John.
Sorry, having a bit of trouble with the push to mute button once again. Always flawless broadcast from everybody here at RCI TV, as Tom Shipston now rounds around the latter half of the lap up towards Sheen Curve, before getting towards Sterling for the Ground Zero Racing car. Currently residing P11, looking at the timing boards, hemorrhaging a little bit of time on corner exit there, so not going to be an improvement from Shipston, as we now watch Pablo Lopez Garcia in the other XBD Emerald Racing car, of course teammates with Jose Jimenez in the pink coloured car. We have a gold coloured car, and I believe we did have a blue coloured car at one of the rounds as well, as he rounds the penultimate corner down under the Pirelli Bridge towards Clark Curve. Through Clearways he goes, and wants to get a clean exit if he can. Normally we see him towards the top end of the field, so a lot to improve here. Can he find an improvement at all? Towards the line, does gain, but only 1 position up to P18, so Jose Jimenez is not going to have that rear gunner that we saw a few times out last time, as Nico Kumpu now P9. Jose Jimenez ahead, I believe, giving him maybe a little bit of a toe, a little bit of a wiggle as he comes out of the last corner, runs towards the line, the 256 car. Can he improve? He can't, as we now flick to Adam Romagna down in P13 of all places. Big improvements to be had by Adam. We've seen him, top 5 at least in the last few rounds, getting past some traffic there. I believe Martinez in the 91, currently down in P21. Romagna does improve up to P9. He does have another shot at it, but throws it in the gravel at Paddock Hill, so no more to be had. But Jose Jimenez still with a chance at pole, Callum.
Yeah, last laps now. I mean, a lot of drivers running wide into the first corner. I think we saw, I believe it was Nico Kumpu as well, running onto the gravel on the exit as we see Jimenez coming down through Pilgrim's Drop, under the bridge and up towards Hawthorns Hill now. Really important that you don't run wide in this corner. Every corner at Brands Hatch is either grass or gravel on the outside. No tarmac runoff to be seen. And as you said, very, very close walls. This tight, quite difficult section. He just about just it perfectly through Westfield and comes up into Sheen Curve. It's really difficult for the driver to place the car perfectly as we see a marker board on the way into Sterling's that's been knocked down. But will Jimenez be able to get 2.9 seconds on his previous best? Bit of traffic coming up ahead as he comes through Clearways and into Clark Curve. Is he going to run wide like we see a lot of drivers do? Keeping it quite tight, and he'll run up to the line, hugging the inside barrier. And enough for second place, a very, very, very marginal gain, but still 2.5 tenths of a second off Rachinov at the top of the standings.
Yeah, biggest gap I think we have ever seen in the Super Trofeo Cup on a Monday. Typically drivers a lot more close than that, although the top 14 this time down to Matthias Thornberg, covered by just over a second. And last time out at Indianapolis, we of course saw Jose Jimenez take an early commanding lead from Ventsi Rachinov and Andy Boardman. However, a few calamities later on in the lap put Rachinov out of contendings, and Adam Romaniuk took a few fights through the 50 minutes, but Christoph Verstraper, well, of course with some rotten luck, taking a late penalty that pushed him down to P7 in the race results. And of course, we'll be getting to your standings in a second, but this is how your grid looks for tonight. Ventsi Rachinov takes pole from Jose Jimenez. A very small gap between the two. Can Jimenez get a lightning start like we've seen him do a few times? Pedro Marquez in P3. Schmid in P4, Carlos Calatayud in P5, Jordan Daly P6, Andy Boardman P7, Nico Kumpu P8, Cal in P9, Adam Romaniuk P10, Tom Shipston P11, no improvement from him at all in that session, Matthew Kingston Lee P12, Roskam in P13, Matthias Thornberg P14, John Aracer 15th, Matt Stevens 16th, Ethan Scotty 17th, Pedro Lopez Garcia all the way down in P18, miles away from his teammates, so no team tactics to be had there. Les Stevenson P19, Daniel Crimson P20, Daniel Martinez I believe P21, and Fukusho in P22. And that rounds out your grid for tonight here at Brands Hatch. And of course, as always, between practice and qualifying, we will hopefully be getting on to your championship standings, so you can see where your favorite drivers lie in that table. And Jose Jimenez heads up the board with 141 points. Very strong lead on this one. Anna Romaniuk joint with Ventsi Rachinov on 106. Andy Boardman just lurking outside the top three there with 95. Pedro Marquez P5 with 88, Carlos Frau with 82, Benjamin Schumann with 80, Ethan Scotty way down the grid tonight, but a good scoring so far in the season is 68, Matt Stevens on 61, and Jordan Daly with 59. And that rounds out your top 10 for the Super Trofeo Cup in Pro. As we round on to page 2, we've got Tom Shipston, ironically P11, where he's qualified today with 52. Les Stevenson on 48. Roskam on 46. Matthew Kingston Lee on 44. John Aracer on 42. Lopez Garcia on 39. Matthias Thornberg on 31. Carlos Calatayud on 30 points. Daniel Crimson on 25. Daniel Martinez on 24. Rounding out your top 20 as we go on to page 3. Richard Phillips on 23. Nico Kumpu tied with him on 23. Also, Luke Crofts on 20. Fukusho on 19. Bailey Collins on 18. Sammy Cow on 10. Matteo Schmid on 0. And everybody with a dash has unfortunately signed out from proceedings. And as we round on to the final page, you see there Christoph Verstraper calling it quits on his championship to focus on other commitments. And as always, Callum, it's that time of the night where I say, who is going to win? Where's your money on? Because I believe Monza, you predicted it right.
I believe I did at Monza. I got it horribly wrong at Indy. Obviously, we completely forgot to do a prediction. I'm struggling tonight. I don't know. Jimenez, I think won't have the same race pace as he did at Indy, but I think I've got to back him really to to at least be up there at the top. Obviously, but you've got Schmid, who hasn't showed up for quite a few of the past few rounds. We don't think he's completed a lap as far as we can see from our brief look earlier in our little pre-commentary chat. And he's all the way up there already, so we'll have to see what his race pace is like. I'm going to go Jimenez.
Yeah, I'm going to go alternate. I'm going to say Rashidov tonight because, if we go the same, it's always going to be boring. And, of course, we need to create some diversity in the box. And, of course, tonight, 22 drivers of the original 30 that did sign up for Split 1 after pre-qualifying was drawn. And obviously, some very big names. We've got some RPMS regulars, of course, in the grid. Matt Stevens and Daniel Crimson, I believe, tonight. No Richard Phillips on that one. Venti Rachinov, who took your pole, British Masters champion. Tom Shipston down in P11 from the silver champion from the British Masters. And, of course, a lot of other regular RCI drivers here tonight. And the top 30 score points tonight. So even if you're down in P22, you're still going to gain something. So, even if Paddock Hill doesn't go your way, commentator's curse, touch wood, hopefully all goes well. And, even if it doesn't go your way, you're still going to be scoring something out of tonight. So, it pays to stick around sometimes at RCI.
Yeah, obviously with a poorer turnout tonight, it means that those points are going to be even greater, even if you just trundle around at the back and get to the end of the 50-minute race. Obviously, a bit of a different setup for this race. Not being an hour long, we run 50 minutes, 0 pit stops unless you're pitting for damage, and no refueling, John. So you have to judge your fuel perfectly off the start. I imagine a lot of these guys are going to have been doing 50-minute runs in the practice sessions to make sure that they judge their fuel perfectly for tonight and don't come across on the last lap, which I believe we've only seen once. I believe it was at Monza. We saw, was it Nico Kumpy run out of fuel? Or am I making that up? I believe we saw somebody run out of fuel on one of the
I believe someone has mistimed it slightly this season. But yeah, as you said, Callum, tonight obviously a 50-minute sprint, not your traditional 1-hour race, and of course a ban on pit lane refueling. So of course you're going to have to judge it very, very carefully indeed. Too much, you're going to be that little bit heavier than your rival. Not enough, you're going to be a lot faster. However, you're not going to make the line. So let's hope the drivers have had their calculators out tonight. Let's hope they've timed it perfectly with, of course, the formation lap, and maybe even go in +1 lap depending when the timer falls for the checkered flag. And while I've got you on a little slowdown lap, we're going to go through, I would say Monday's calendar, but next week we go to Spa, and that is it. That's Super Trofeo Cup done. So one more round for us before we move on to a new Monday series. Keep your eyes peeled on the website. But Tuesday this week, exciting times. Begins the first of many iRacing events for RCI, with our road racing season kicking off with round 1 at Laguna Seca. GT4 and MX5 Cup share the track for this one, and there's still spaces to sign up for that one. Rookies on Wednesday, head to round 4 at the Nürburgring. Thursday, of course, I know me and you are looking to race in this one. Season 12 championship with a British GT theme. GT3s and GT4 tour the British GT calendar, starting off at Silverstone, and there's still spaces to be had on that one. So if you do fancy sharing a track with me and or Callum, then get your names down for that one. And Friday, of course, continues our GT Sprint Challenge Season 9 with round 4 heading to Spa. Dylan Tan once again proving himself a force to be reckoned with, taking another victory last time out. Paul Ricard from Valentin Barrier, Samir Foch and Una Salvalainen once again finding himself down the order in 6th. However, Una still claws on to 2nd place in the standings by 2 points, so all eyes on him in the latter half of the season, while we have 2 French natives of Valentin Barrier and Hugo Merles tied for points just behind Juna for 2nd and 3rd. But enough of what's happening this week. Tonight we are, of course, at Brands Hatch with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Pole sitter, of course, gets the inside line into turn 1. It's going to be valuable to hold even up into turn 2 before turn 3 becomes the outside line. So can Rachinov get a clear run away as we wait wait for the gantry lights to go. The green flag drops on the left-hand side of your screen, and Venci Rachinov gets a thundering start with Pedro Marquez up the inside of Jose Jimenez. Everybody giving each other just enough room to squeeze around Paddock Hill before the run up towards Hellwood Hill, before the run into Graham Hill. Round the other side we go. Still no calamities I'm seeing on the track map, which is good. Turn 2 is typically the pinch point, but Rachinov has managed to go away like a scolded cat from Jose Jimenez, and he's going to be all eyes front. However, the Lamborghini is looking to the inside, weaving around in the mirrors, trying to just put Rachinov off enough just to throw him off his line, as Daniel Crimson at the back there finds himself too wide with Facuccio. Driver off to the right-hand side of the picture there as we come onto the back straight. The number 49, not sure who that is, but as you look to your track map on the right-hand side, 46 could be Les Stevenson on that one. But drivers too wide through Westfield, down Dingledale, up the other side to Sheen Curve. You see the breakaway. They've got Jose Jimenez and Rachinov just gapping Pedro Marquez, and Matteo Schmid is just behind him. Schmid with some great pace in the practice server, but does find himself down in P4 at the moment. He's going to be a driver to keep your eye on, I think, in this race. As we now round through the last corner, Jose Jimenez ahead, looking to make the move on Rachinov onto the main straight, seeing if he can get the inside line into Paddock Hill Bend, and all but one car, Callum, has made it through as Jimenez now looks to the inside.
That is a very, very tight move from Jimenez. Very, very close to some contact there. I was very surprised not to see anyone push that wide at the first corner there of Paddock Hill, as we see the cars coming down through Graham Hill and Graham Hill Bend. Jimenez looks like he's backed up a little bit, maybe trying to focus on the exit and get a good run back down on through Pilgrim's Drop. But yeah, very clean start apart from poor Les Stevenson, who's currently running down in 22nd.
Yeah, Les Stevenson finding himself on a rotten bit of luck, I believe, coming out onto the GP circuit through Surtees. I did see a car spear off to the side, so maybe stewards have spotted that one and are currently reviewing the footage to see if anybody is at fault. Of course, we do have a full team of live stewards for Split 1 races at RCI. Tonight in the box we have Andreas, Bart, Connor, Daniel, Jake Boswell and Tom Watts, all giving up their Monday evening to steward everybody, make sure everybody keeps in line, make sure nobody's playing those games that you don't want to play. And the cow car I have just made out is indeed cow. Ironically, different spelling, similar pronunciation in English, but it is not the Volpez Simsport car as we thought it was earlier in qualifying. But Adam Romaniuk in a bit of a sandwich here. Nico Kumpu ahead, Cow behind. Definite pressure being put on to Kumpu. Kumpu holds the inside into Paddock Hill. Romaniuk looks to try and do a switchback on the brakes, but doesn't manage to do so. Nico holding the inside line very cautiously indeed, and then covers off coming up the hill as well. There's contact. Romaniuk into the quarter of Nico Kumpu. Kumpu stopped on the outside. Everybody is streaming through. Kumpu gets the car fired again, and Romaniuk finds himself on his way. But kudos to Adam Romaniuk for not just, mashing the throttle and pushing Nico out of the way. So hopefully stewards do kind of take a reasonable view on that one. We have seen them being a bit lighter on their penalties when drivers do wait for each other and, admit when they've, kind of done wrong.
Yeah, as we see, looking back up towards the front of Pedro Marquez, he's very close to the back of Jimenez, and I don't see Rachinov in that shot. I believe he's gapped almost a second now to these guys, so I don't know if Jimenez is just struggling for a bit more of that pace that he's had here, as we see Rachinov coming through in towards Sterling's, and no one in sight, 1.3 seconds clear of the next car. Jimenez just flashes up in the background there. But for a race that we thought was going to be quite close and very tight at the front, Rachinov's having quite a good couple of laps these past few. He's pulling the gap on Jimenez a little bit. I wonder if Jimenez is struggling a little bit, as we see Scotty there trying to have a go at, I believe it's Paul Lopez Garcia in the white and gold car, coming through Clark Curve and onto the back straight. Is he going to try it round the outside into Paddock Hill? It's kind of hard to make a move around there because it's quite easy to get shoved off wide, as we see Scotty, I believe, getting pushed out there. I believe I've got my cars right. Was that Matthias Thornberg in the white?
It's Matthias Thornberg, yeah. The timing had bugged.
The timing board doing me dirty there and bugging out as they head through Graham Hill. kind of hard to make an overtake on this. Classic British track, sort of quite tight and twisty and very, very narrow. It's one of the key defining features about Brands Hatch, and you've only really got a couple of opportunities. Into Druids, obviously, is your main one there, and also coming down Hawthorne through up through Hawthorne Hill and into Hawthorns. If you can get the run and get an overlap on the inside, as we see Scotty trying to do, but not quite, you're kind of waiting for a car ahead to make a mistake or to run wide, John.
Yeah, it's typical kind of like Alton Park syndrome, where it's a very kind of follow the leader track until one of you makes a mistake and then the train comes steaming past you, as Jordan Daly has made up a position. And Jose Jimenez, I'm not seeing on the board. He's down in P12, Callum. Jose with a big loss of time somewhere, not sure what happened there, but promotes Marquez up to P2, Jordan Daly to P3, Andy Boardman into P4, and Carlos Calatayud into P5. Schmidt finds himself down in P6, so I'm wondering if maybe Schmidt and Jimenez have had a coming together at some point in the race. I'm sure stewards will be keen to update us when they do get all their stuff together. We have certain stewards taking certain corners, and that's how they kind of decide their cases and split the workload up fairly. So hopefully all incidents don't happen in one corner, or one steward is going to be very busy, as Andy Boardman looks to the back of Jordan Daly, coming out on to the back straight, essentially down to Pilgrim's Drop, up the other side of Hawthorne Hill and through Hawthorne. It's going to be tucking in behind Jordan Daly, going to be trying to gain as much as he can on the straight without getting too much aero wash through the corner. The number 69 looking very stable indeed behind the 197. Daly taking a much sharper turn in compared to Boardman, into Dingledell and down to Sheen Curve up the other side. It's very easy to dip wheels in the grass, Callum, as we saw Boardman running along the white line as he went through Sheen Curve on the entry, and that's all it takes. Like here, Daly running wide, compromises his exit down into the last corner of Clearways, down into Clark Curve. Boardman not able to get the overlap around the outside. Of course, the corner kind of falls away from you, so the inside is very favourable for the last turn and the first turn. And all the meanwhile, RCI Carlos, who was very surprised by his qualifying position, just sits behind, and Daly opens the door into Paddock Hill, and that allows Boardman through. And now RCI Carlos is going to have a stab up the inside of Daly, gets a nose in, and they touch. Daly spins Carlos into the door. I believe he's weighted up. Schmidt might have even been involved into the back of Carlos, as Schmidt gains a position, and Carlos is out on the inside. He's now waiting for the whole train to steam by once again before he joins the back of it, just behind Les Stevenson. No, Les Stevenson's actually further back than I thought. Just behind Fukushio in P20. Carlos, curse of the commentator, you know, said Carlos did well in qualifying, and look what happens, turn 2.
Poor Les there getting absolutely character assassinated by John in the booth.
Not guilty, Your Honour.
I don't know what you were saying about one steward being more busy than the other, but I don't know who's been given turn 2 of Druids, but I believe they're in for a very busy night as we see some incidents come through from the stewards already. The big one out of those, a 15-second penalty for car 29 for an incident on turn 2 involving 29 of Romagnac and the 256. So Romagnac given a 15-second penalty for that incident. Obviously, as we said, probably a reduced penalty, bearing in mind the fact that he did stop and wait. The stewards taking that into account as we see Daly coming through with Schmidt, who I believe, if that's not a graphical, but might have some damage on his nose. So you might be right on that incident there involving Carlos, and I'm getting in my ear from Ryan Gill in the box that Carlos has actually retired. Maybe just deciding it's not worth it to stick around for those few extra points for running at the back or some damage. As we see Daly running down through Pilgrim's Drop and cutting back to Ethan Scotty as well. Quite a close few battles in the midfield. You've got Paul Lopez Garcia and Jimenez going side by side up ahead, as Paul Lopez Garcia, I believe, is coming through. Sorry, Roscam defending from Jimenez coming through. Paul Lopez Garcia is the white and gold car coming behind. So Jimenez back on the attack after running, obviously, we believe in an incident earlier, whether that was involved with another car, we do not know. Haven't had a replay of that show up. Jimenez Jimenez all over the back, and I'm getting told by Ryan, contact with 88, so it was Schmid involved in that incident with Jimenez. Whether that's a penalty for that or not, we are yet to see. The stewards are yet to look at the incident. As we see Jimenez getting past a Roscam, I believe, has he got the move done yet? All sorted, coming through Clearways and Clark Curve and back onto the straight. He's now setting his sights on John Eraser up ahead, 6/10 up the road, and that's quite a little pack up ahead of Eraser, Stevens, Kingston, Lee and Shipston. As we look towards the front as well, on my screen I can see that Reichenov has gapped Marquez by it's about 3-4 seconds, with Boardman running 4/10 behind, so quite close up at the front end between those guys.
Yeah, so a few stewards reports coming through. As you said, incident lap 1, turn 4, involving the 53 and the 46. That's Les Stevenson and Lopez Garcia. Unfortunately, the 46 drives into the 53 and takes himself out. We have an incident on lap 1, turn 2, involving the 699 and the 77. Racing incident, minor contact. Incident lap 3, turn 2, involving the 29 and the 256. The 15 seconds for the 29. The 29 brakes too late, causing the takeout of the 256, then waits. So obviously Stewart taking note of Adam Romaniuk's waiting there. So it could have been maybe a 30, maybe a drive-through, maybe even a stop-go, possibly for that one. We have an incident on lap 4, turn 2, involving the 20 and the 29. Racing incident, minor contact. Incident lap 4, turn 2, involving the 122 and the 88. I believe Jose Jimenez and Schmid. As you said, unfortunate contact, neither driver deemed at fault, so no further action on that one. And a lap 1, turn 6, involving the 699 and the 54. We have a warning for car 54 as Matthias Thornberg for avoidable contact. Other than that, we're looking fairly, I say, touch wood, commentator's curse about to strike again, fairly clean, as Tom Shipston focuses himself to the back of Cal's car in the number 255, heading through Surtees out onto the Pilgrim Straight, essentially down the hill, up the other side towards Hawthorne, and Matthew Kingston Lee is just behind him, and this man here, Jose Jimenez, is behind the lot of them. John Eraser next in line for Jose's kind of attack, and then we have Matt Stevens very close, the two ahead. So Jose Jimenez is about to make this a 3-car moment and hopefully get some spicy battles going on. As we see, pack racing, we saw it with Ginettas, cars forming 2, 3s, then you get the 4th, the 5th, and then all of a sudden one car makes a mistake and the whole train pulls past you. But Jimenez on an absolute charger now towards the last corner of Clearways, towards Clark Curve, and looking firmly on the back of John Eraser. Big wiggle in the middle of the corner there as he comes out onto the straight. It's definitely going to hamper him slightly. Let's see what lap time he pulls as he comes across the line. 126.485 last time out, his best lap being a 126.2, so he's on an absolute charger. He wants to make all the points up that he can. He had a very strong result in Indianapolis and is probably keen to kind of replicate that. Of course, at the top of the board we are very, very close on points, so anything you can bag yourself tonight is going to be a bonus for you later on.
Yeah, quite close on points at the top of the standings between these guys. Obviously, Jimenez now having to do another fight-back race from the middle of the pack. He seems to like having some form of misfortune and fighting back towards the front, see how far he can get up in the next 36 minutes. So roughly 1.5 minute lap around Brands Hatch, trying to do the maths in my head of how many laps that will be. Just probably about 20 or so, 22, 25 laps to go, as Jimenez right on the back of this group of 2 now of Eraser and Stevens, running quite wide. Again, 2 wheels on the grass doesn't seem to hurt his times through Sheen Curve. Now they come. Is he going to be able to set a move up down into Sterling's? No, he's still way too far back. I feel like at this track you've got to be right under the rear diffuser of that other Lamborghini in front in order to make a move like that. So he'll probably try and set something up through Clearways and through Clark Curve to either have a look down into Paddock Hill or Druids, John.
Yeah, it's all about kind of making it very awkward for the car ahead of you to hit his turning point. Whether or not you just, just about get a splitter alongside, just to kind of throw him off and think, oh, can't turn in there for the apex anymore. I've got Jose Jimenez on the inside. So going to be looking to make that Lambo snoot as long as he can, poking it up the inside of John Eraser at any given moment. So all eyes on this one. John Eraser doesn't really seem to be catching the back of Matt Stevens, maybe playing it a little bit smart, as we see Jimenez there takes a very tight kind of divey line. We saw it on lap 1, and that's the move I'm talking about. Just enough of a snoot up the inside, and he finds himself alongside John Eraser as we now come down Pilgrim's Drop towards Hawthorne Hill. Side by side, Eraser on the favoured side for Hawthorne Bend, and Jimenez sticks it around the outside, still just about side by side, and Jimenez now backs out as they head towards Westfield Bend, down Dingle Dell, and Eraser making a small mistake there, and it allows Jimenez right up to the back again of Eraser as they come over the crest at Shin Curve and down towards Sterling's. No move to be had there, but Jimenez is sizing him up, and now Eraser gets a bad run out of Sterling's down towards Clearways again, side by side. Eraser giving no room at all to Jimenez, and he now tries to switch back through the last corner, and he just about leaves a Lamborghini space. Doors being rubbed on the left and on the right as they now charge towards Paddock Hill Bend. Who will be the last of the late breakers? Eraser on the less favoured side on the outside, and he seems that and tucks it in nicely behind Jimenez, but Jimenez now might have to go defensive up the hill towards Druids, and I think, Callum, he's just about got that sealed.
Yeah, Jimenez just about getting that done. That was quite tight there, quite a lot of door banging between the two drivers. As you can see, Eraser really driving in his mirrors there by the gap that Stevens has then pulled off. It's now a second ahead for Jimenez to try and catch up, as we see Eraser going down the inside, a little bit of contact there, maybe both of them managed to keep going in a straight line, costing them a massive amount of time there, as Ethan Scotty now comes through to take the position on Jimenez and Nico Kumpu. So I imagine there might be some stewards very, very interested in looking at that, as we see cars stopped in the middle of the road and carnage there. I believe that was that Daly.
Yeah, Daly stopped, and I believe Thornberg came around kind of blindsided and into the door and into the Armco. Not sure what happened with Daly there, maybe a hardware failure. Possibly Stewart's going to have to look at that one to see, what actually happened. And speaking of Stewards, we do have a few more reports. Sorry to chop in there, Callum. Lap 3, turn 8, involving the 96 and the 54. 5 seconds for the 96, who turns in on the 54, who is forced off the track. We then have an incident on lap 6, turn 2, involving the 197, the 30 and the 88. A warning for car 30. 30 causes avoidable contact, and the 88 cannot avoid contact in time. Incident on lap 8, turn 3, involving the 96 and the 53. A warning for the 96, avoidable contact. Incident on lap 8, turn 4, involving the 96 and the 53. A warning for the 53, avoidable contact once again. Incident lap 11, turn 4, involving the 122 and the 699. Jose Jimenez, that was the John Eraser battle I think we just witnessed, actually. Stewart's very fast on that one for a racing incident. Lap 11, turn 9, involving the 699 and the 192. Once again, a racing incident, minor contact. An incident on lap 12, turn 1, involving the 122 and the 699, racing incident. And like you say, John Eraser going to be kind of under speculation from the stewards with Jimenez for the move that was into Surtees before heading down Pilgrim's Drop, that saw Jimenez lose out big time. Went back 2 positions, I believe. Is now going to fire him up even more. He's got Ethan Scotty now between himself and Eraser. He's going to be keen to try and dispatch of that very brightly blue and green coloured Lamborghini as they now head out of Sterling's down towards Clearways and Clark Curve. And you can just see Eraser there just ahead of him on that one. I believe even Nico Kumpu managed to find his way back past. I'm not sure. I did see a camouflage car of some kind.
Nico Kumpu was the one involved in the incident, I was going to say, with Jordan Daly. He was one of the 2 cars stopped. So Nico Kumpu currently running at the back behind Les Stevenson, and Jordan Daly, I believe, in the pit lane, as I can see on the track map. So I believe he has retired and is going to either that or he's in the pit lane fixing damage. As we see Jimenez just sort of following this battle, runs a little wide there through the apex of Graham Hill Bend, following that battle between Ethan Scotty and John Eraser. Ethan's just had a great time. He's turned around the corner onto the back straight and seen two cars stopped in front of him, so two easy positions, and he gets a go at John Aracer. So 3/10 off the back, wondering if Jimenez might have some form of damage maybe. Obviously not really worth pitting in these races with the nature of there being no pit stop, so you lose a massive amount of time for being in the pit lane. Just looking ahead towards the gap at the front, still holding at about 3.4 seconds, so your bet on Rachanov might be looking quite good, John, although I may have just cursed it as we seem to have been doing this race quite a lot.
Please don't curse it. Please. We're cursing enough people tonight, it seems. We cursed Carlos and then, everybody else. But commentators curse as Ryan Gill sings in our ears very gracefully indeed from behind the cameras. And something that isn't cursed is our RCI 6-hour esports series. Hopefully it's not cursed anyway. 5 rounds, 50 teams, limited tyre sets, custom BOP, and exciting news today for those of you that follow RCI on our social media. We have a forecasted 5-figure €10,000 prize pool. That's when everybody goes, ooh. And alongside that, the series aims to showcase you the absolute best of what sim racing has to offer on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And in case you missed a few weeks ago as well, Ryan Gill dropped us another little nugget of information that we're going to be running a giveaway with one of our partners on the live streams of the rounds from Fanatec. So obviously tune in to see what you can get your grubby little mitts on for that one. It will be revealed all later on. And alongside the esports series, we do of course also have a free event that is running on the Saturdays alternate with no entry fees and of course no prize pool, but pre-qualifying is of course open for that one now, as Tom Bryant in the chat hits me with a ooh. So thank you, Tom. I'm glad somebody's listening. But yeah, head on over to racerci.com where you can of course check out all the details that you need for the RCI 6-hour esports series. And we do have a couple of big contenders. I saw George Boothby signed up with a certain strong Porsche driver, so all eyes on them. And I'm very excited to see what can bring. I'm being told I'm FFS Racing as well. So a couple of good sign-ups early on. Get over, get pre-qualified, and give yourself a chance at getting your paws on a potential €10,000 prize pool. Ooh. But back to tonight, Schmid in P4 currently looking at the back of Andy Boardman. Still no move to be had on this one. These two quite close. Boardman of course was locking horns with Daly earlier before his technical hitch. We now see Jose Jimenez alongside Ethan Scotty. Jimenez to the grass, Kevin Estra style, trying to make the move stick down the hill and up the other side through Hawthorns. No move to be had, and Ethan Scotty on the inside. Jimenez tries it around the outside where there's absolutely no logic being, and he sticks it again to the outside of Ethan Scotty, and the next turn is of course a right-hander where Jose will find himself on the outside. And now look who has been brought into the battle, Adam Romaniuk, briefly before running wide on the commentator's curse once again. And I've got a lot of rules in chat, which is great to see. Thank you guys for tuning in and sticking about through this commentary, even if it is a little bit light-hearted and a little bit silly at times.
And I believe I have found out what the incident involving Daly is, as we see Cal with a drive-through penalty that he's currently serving. So that's going to drop him right down to the back of the pack. And looking at the steward's report, had quite a few more come in, but yeah, I can see 255 incident on lap 12, turn 5, involving the 197 of Daly and the 255 of Cal. Drive-through for car 255 causes a takeout and position not returned. So that's the incident involving Daly that's forced him to retire to the pit lane.
Again, mute button is doing me dirty tonight, it seems. It's not playing ball. Really need to rebind that key. But Jose Jimenez now finds himself up into P9 in the XPD Emerald Racing car. Wasted a lot of time trying to get past Ethan Scotty. And of course, John Aracer is just up the road. Was about 2 seconds to the good. Now 1.786 seconds to gain for Jose to have himself another chomp at John Aracer. Worked out nearly last time before for coming across for the commentator's curse, need I add. And we do have a few more stewards reports coming through. We have a lap 8, turn 5 involving the 54 and the 53. A 5 second for the 54 who forced the 53 off track. That was Matthias Thornberg, I believe, and Jordan Daly possibly being the other car in that incident, if I'm right in saying. I've not got Daly's number to hand on the
Jordan Daly, I believe, was the 197. What was it? What number were you looking for? And I will...
the 53. Lopez Garcia actually on that one, down in P13, unlucky for some. But yeah, we have a 5 second for the 54, and then we have an incident on lap 12, turn 5, involving the 197 and the 255. We have a drive-through for the 255, causes a takeout and position not returned. So that was on Cal, who is now down in P18 since serving that penalty. But Boardman and Schmid still locked together. I don't know why, but I thought Schmid would have a little more pace than this come the race. He was setting some very fast laps in practice, quite possibly just running practice qualifying laps to try and get himself further up the grid. As we did say earlier in the broadcast, Brands Hatch is notoriously difficult to overtake. As Boardman goes a little bit wide, Schmid gets a little bit of oversteer, and the mistakes kind of cancel each other out, although side by side down into the last turn of Clearways into Clark Curve. Schmid all over the inside grass, trying to make another Kevin Estra move stick there, but no good on that one. We see the gap. Andy Boardman's now pulled out on Schmid. No move to be had into Paddock Hill. And Boardman is safe for another lap.
Yeah, that really hurt him there. Hooking that inside curb just really upset the car and just sort of seemed to bounce it off almost in that direction. I mean, one of the reasons why Schmid may not have as much pace as he looked in towards the bottom of Graham Hill, trying to maximise the exit out here. Maybe some of that front end damage from any of those incidents, as we see him running all the way out just over the white lines. You can use the AstroTurf out there. It's a very weird real life track surface when you go there, and if you ever do get to go around or walk around Brands on a track walk, as we see them coming down onto the GP section of the circuit. It might explain some of the pace difference though between practice and the race. He's struggling to get past Boardman as we see him really making the most out of these track limits, and he closes right up to the back of this section. There's Smith really enjoying this section here ahead of Boardman. Boardman may be driving in the mirrors a little bit just because of the nature of the circuit being so narrow. You can sort of just not drive to block, but sort of just place your car correctly, and you're not going to struggle too much with keeping a car behind unless you make a mistake, as we see no mistakes here coming down toward Clearways and Clark Curve. Is Smith going to get close enough to try and move into turn 1, John?
I think Schmid is just far enough back that he can't make a move or edge his car through like we saw Jose Jimenez do on John O'Racer, where he just about got the front end of the Lamborghini just about alongside enough to make it awkward for John O'Racer to turn in, although Schmid looks very, very confident through sector 1, and then through sectors 2 and 3 seems much more balanced towards both drivers. So it's going to be a fight that's going to go all the way to the end. Just over 22 minutes to go, and yeah, as we come down into the latter half of the lap, we come around the cutoff that takes you around into the GP loop. Very tricky corner, that one. There's a nasty bump on the outside, and there's a bit of a difficult curve as well, that if you hit, the car doesn't seem to like it, and you lose all momentum as you head up the other side of the hill. But no momentum was lost from Andy Boardman as Schmid finds himself on the back all over the curb. Drivers cutting the inside a lot more there. Schmid, you saw, takes all of the grass and a bit of the curb, whereas Andy Boardman just kind of nicks the grass on the inside rather than placing his whole car over it. Possibly some nasty flashback memories from another race. I think I've lost it many a time on that curb, just being that little bit too greedy. It's just enough to send any car over the edge, and especially when you're not in a full-blown GT3 machine, you're of course in a Super Trofeo Evo 2. Slightly different in the way they handle, possibly don't want to upset, but Boardman looks very good out of Clark Curve onto the main straight. He's managing to hold enough of a gap that makes Schmid very hard to even get alongside. So Andy Boardman, definitely kudos to you, as I'm touching my desk currently because commentator's curse may strike again. But Jose Jimenez now finds himself in eyesight of John Aracer, closing up the gap to 0.413 of a second as they head through Paddock Hill Bend. Jimenez definitely a much faster line through there. Bit of a curb kiss on the inside, whereas Aracer kind of took a little bit of a wider line, and you see so much curb on the inside from Jimenez. He hits those kind of bobbly bits on the inside, and it really upsets the car and drags him sideways and loses a lot of momentum down into Graham Hill Bend. So he's going to have to get the hammer down and focus back on John Aracer. But all the meanwhile, Adam Romaniuk in the mirrors, of course, a 15-second time penalty. So Adam's going to want to try and get back as much as he can. You know, if he finishes 15 seconds ahead of the guy behind, then great, no position lost. But he's not going to do that. If Jose Jimenez and John Aracer start fighting in front of him, it's only going to hinder him that little bit more. And you can see how much Jose Jimenez is pushing that car up through Hawthorns, down through Westfield, into Dingledale. A little mistake from Aracer there, covering off the inside as they head up to the top of the hill of Sheen Curve. Jimenez thinking, not going side by side with this one again. We know what happened last time. A little bit of paint exchange. If you look closely probably at Aracer's car, you might see a little bit of pink on the side, and Aracer goes all the way to the edge of the circuit. Jimenez tries to make a move on the grass to no avail, although tucks it in nicely for a clean run through Clark Curve. And Adam Romaniuk, all the meanwhile, is still sitting on the back of this train. You see a flash of the lights there from Jimenez in frustration. Aracer, typically a very hard, aggressive driver to drive against, inexperienced. He is very good at placing the car, kind of running you out where you don't want to be, and that's a fine example of what we just saw from Aracer.
Yeah, that was a very, very tight little move there from Aracer. Sort of very last minute block there. I would be frustrated if I was Jimenez on that. I've seen blocks like that been thrown, and as we see Jimenez try and dart it down, maybe trying to upset Aracer off his line there. You're not really going to make a move through that, but really setting up for the exit, sort of upsetting Aracer through the corner. Obviously Aracer, as you say, with a 5-second penalty, so he's going to finish behind these guys anyway, unless he can pull out some time on these guys who are battling with him. As we see Jimenez, is he going to look to go side by side to this next section of corners, really running under the bumper of Aracer there, maybe just backing it off to let it through this tight sort of tricky section. Really don't want to run too wide, as you say, through there, and down coming into the last couple of corners, just trying to upset Aracer with his line, and Romaniuk coming through. So Romaniuk now goes to the outside for 3 clearways into Clark Curve, trying to get the undercut on Jimenez. We saw Jimenez do on another driver I'm trying to remember from earlier, I think it was Scotty, as we see Romaniuk getting that preferred inside line for turn 1, and he's past Jimenez. So maybe Romaniuk can have a go at Aracer now. But he's got to keep in mind that Jimenez might try up the inside for Druids. It is the preferred line. Jimenez is there on the inside. A little bit of contact there, but both the drivers seem to be making it through. And now Ethan Scotty is going to be looking at the back of Jimenez. So really, all of these drivers sort of holding each other up and just allowing the people behind to come into play, John.
Yeah, Aracer holding up Jimenez, which has allowed Romaniuk now into the middle of those two to split them up a little bit. Ethan Scotty, of course, just lurking behind in the green and blue Lamborghini. And then Matthias Thornberg just behind him as well. 5-second penalty to the good of the car behind of Roskam. 3.3 currently to the good on him. So he's going to want to be trying to pull out a little bit of a gap. And you can see in the way Jimenez is driving, he's very frustrated with how this race has gone. And, you know, he can't believe it. He's had a stab at Aracer now twice, and he just can't get past. And now Romaniuk has found his way past. It's another contender to try and find a way through. There's a little bit of oversteer there coming out of Sheen Curve towards Sterling, and has allowed Ethan Scotty to kind of close up a little bit more, and Romaniuk to kind of pull the gap even more to the front end of that pink Lamborghini. And I think Jimenez just needs to kind of breathe a little bit, calm it. Just over 16 minutes to go. Of course, it's only under a 1:30 lap, so you know, you do the maths at home. That's still a fair few laps to try and get something done.
Yeah, he doesn't seem too happy with the car, whether it's the damage that he's sustained in any of these incidents, or or whether it's just the setup, it's not as quick this weekend as we've seen the start of this week as we've seen him in previous rounds. Just little bits of oversteer moments or clipping curbs the wrong way seems to be really running that Lamborghini on the edge in terms of setup, as we see Matthias Thornberg running at the back of this group of 4 now, with John Aracer trying to make a break, currently 1.5 seconds ahead of Romaniuk, just due to all of this battling. It's really costing them so much time. It's so hard to make a move around Brands Hatch that anytime you do try and go offline or run side by side or make an attempt on passing another car, you really compromise lap time. So it just allows the cars ahead to pull a massive gap, as we're seeing sort of 2, 3, 4 second gaps between some of the cars, especially sort of looking at the top sort of 6 cars, as you can see on your timing screen there. It's sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 second gaps between each one, and they're just sort of running at their own pace and not allowing them to get slowed down by getting involved in battles or incidents, as we see Thornberg rounding the final corner, and Jimenez really right up the back of Romaniuk, flashing the lights, try and distract the driver, as Thornberg is still going through turn 1 there, and Romaniuk running what seemed to be out wide. Jimenez might have a look down the inside, just he will in through Druids with Scotty on the back, and don't know if we can cut to the cars ahead. Romaniuk is going slowly there, so Thornberg coming through. Maybe there was contact there, flash of the lights from Romaniuk, letting Thornberg go past. So I don't know if there was contact there between Romaniuk and Jimenez, as we cut to Ficaccio and Martinez having a little battle here, down for 16th and 17th place respectively, running through Graham Hill, as we see the white, blue and red car of Ficaccio trying to think about maybe setting up a move into the Grand Prix part of the circuit, coming through Surtees now. As you say, no touching of the curbs on the inside or the outside can really upset the car on the exit. And will Ficaccio have the run on Martinez to run down and make a move at the top of Hawthorne Hill? No, but Martinez running slightly offline in a sort of semi-defensive move there. So Ficaccio is going to be gaining little bits of time here and there, as we see in the background the Cow liveried car of Cow. Recovering after that drive-through all the way up to 18th already, and Nico Kumpu behind him.
Yeah, just touching on the fight that we saw, Jimenez, Ethan Scotty and Adam Romaniuk, it looked like, from where I was sat anyway, that Romaniuk compromised himself coming through Paddock Hill. Up the other side, Jimenez found the inside line into Druids, and then Ethan Scotty thought, you know what, I'm going to have a piece of that as well, and Romaniuk turned in, not expecting there to be a second car just alongside the rear wheel, and that was unfortunately what caused the spin. Flash of the lights probably adds frustration towards Ethan Scotty to say, you know, what are you doing? Let's not ruin each other's races here. So Stewart's going to have to take a look at that one, as no move to be had on Martinez. As such, both drivers looking very equal through the first couple of turns of Brands Hatch. And we look towards the steward's box. We do have a few more reports coming in. Lap 12, turn 5, involving the 122 and the 699. Once again, John Aracer and Jose Jimenez. 5 seconds for the 699 of John Aracer. Dive bomb with contact, position not returned. So key point there, position not returned. They then had an incident on lap 19, turn 5, involving the 53 and the 96, racing incident minor contact. We then had an incident on lap 17, turn 3, involving the 34, the 122. We have a warning for the 122 for avoidable contact on the 34. We then have an incident on lap 23, turn 9, involving the 20 and the 91 as a racing incident minor contact. We then have an incident on lap 21, turn 8, involving the 69 and the 88. That was Andy Bourbon and Schmid. 15 seconds for the 88. The 88 causes a takeout, attempts to wait, losing sufficient time for the penalty to be reduced, as Adam Romaniuk now finds himself waiting up excuse me, for Matthias Thornberg. Flash of the light from Thornberg to say thank you very much. And Lopez Garcia profits off that one as well. Although the top 30, of course, scoring every driver that finishes tonight. 19 still remain in this race, will score some form of points. We then have a incident on lap 23, turn 3, involving the 29 and the 122. That is Jose Jimenez, a warning for the 122. Avoidable contact, no position gained. Second warning, 5 seconds given. And I believe that is yet to appear on the scoreboard. So Jose Jimenez may be finding himself in hot water as well, as it just appears there, Callum.
Yeah, loads of penalties been given out. The sea of red on the side of the scoreboard. 5 and 15-second penalties for quite a few of the drivers. Big penalty there, obviously, coming out of that is the penalty for Schmidt up in third place. That's going to drop him quite a few positions and cost him quite a bit of time, as we see. Might be the thing that cost him a podium there.
Yeah, quite possibly so. Any time loss is, of course, somebody else's to profit off it. And we do see Schmidt with 15, John Aracer with 5, Jimenez with 5, Roskam with 5, Thornberg with 5, and Adam Romaniuk with 15 seconds. So it's going to be very crazy once all these cars finish in just over 10 minutes time to see who has shuffled where and who's the biggest gainer and loser. But I think Andy Boardman might accidentally find himself on the podium, although Schmidt is 12.8 seconds to the good. I believe that's actually on Marquez. Andy Boardman just 3 seconds down the road. Tom Shipston 5 on that, so we're up to about 9. Then got 3 seconds to Kingston Lee, 2 to Stevens, so he's going to find himself maybe even down in P7 once that penalty goes through for Schmidt.
Yeah, one of the big gainers, as you're talking about, might be Ethan Scotty. He's got 2 cars ahead of him, both with 5-second time penalties. And he is, I believe, only 3 seconds ahead, behind John Aracer in 8th place. So he might be able to jump a couple of positions there. Looking back again at Focaccia, still trying to make the move on Daniel Martinez, I believe, in the number 91 car, I believe. And Cal still ever close behind them, only a second behind now as they come through Sterling's and down towards Clearways. Just really struggling to make any move, sort of break into that half-second sort of barrier. He's been stuck at 4/10 behind now for the past couple of laps. We've seen him try and running this train of 3, but in my mind now, I'd be thinking, do I want another go at Daniel Martinez? Do I want to wait for him to make a mistake potentially? Because as we see, putting yourself offline and going side by side has cost massively. It's often the third car in the group that benefits the most, as we see Martinez taking a fairly deep line into Druids there and down towards Graham Hill Bend. Drivers sort of making use and trying to make them work the cars. Obviously 40 minutes currently on one set of Pirellis, so he might be trying to struggle a little bit in this race at the end, as we cut to Vency Rachanov, who 8 seconds to the good now, 29 laps completed, as he's got 8 minutes to go, so keeping it clean now and just trying to make it to the end.
Yeah, Rachanov has literally got this one, hopefully commentator's curse allowing, in the bag. All he's got to do is keep it very clean, keep it off any bumps, as Ryan Gill shouts curse in our ears. Hopefully not. Rachanov, of course, with a big mistake at Indianapolis, put himself out of contention, although has driven a very solid race up until this point tonight at Brands Hatch. And I wish I had a smooth transition into this segment, but for once I don't. So something new for 2023, of course, you might have heard it earlier on the formation lap. RCI goes iRacing, and for those of you interested in the events that we are running, we have a road series open with a multi-class grid of GT4 and MX5 Cup, and the same format follows an endurance race at Okayama as well on the 11th of February. For those of you who love to drive around in circles, turning only left, we've also added an event for you with the Charlotte 75. 50 laps around Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Street Stock Series. Over in the Discord, we do also have some iRacing codes available for those of you wanting to dip their toe in another sim. We've got 3 months free trial for new accounts only. perfect to test if iRacing is the sim for you. And alternatively, we have 12 months for $49.99 USD, once again for new accounts only. Ideal if you want to start taking part in all of the events over the next year. With details on how to claim these can be found in our Discord server. Link is of course in the description below, and you will of course find links to all of our social medias if you do want to stay up to date with RCI and what we're doing. We do have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the sociable platforms nowadays where we do post regular updates, what's going on behind the scenes at RCI. Those of you that might not know, we do run an esports team as well, so definitely one to keep your eyes peeled, see what Christopher Straper is up to with the likes of Wolf Matushka and other drivers, of course, over at the Flexstream esports series at the moment where we're competing. Been told by Ryan Gill that it's going to be a very, very warm Paul Ricard with a BMW M2. Don't know what could go wrong, Callum. And torrential rain he's just thrown into the mix as well. So 55 degrees, torrential rain, BMW M2. It's going to be one to watch, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting race. I've heard ludicrously high track temperatures, and torrential rain is going to be quite the combination. And obviously the best of luck to the RCI boys, including Verstappen, as they tackle that. Cutting back to this championship and the battle at the top of the standings between Jimenez, Romaniuk and Rachanov, obviously for the championship lead. Jimenez probably still comfortable to have the championship lead after this round, going into the last round at Spa. But obviously this sort of lower top 10 finish really is going to hurt him, as he's still stuck on the back of John Aracer's car, both obviously down with a 5-second penalty. So this is going to be a fight to the line to see who can come first after this next 4 minutes and 42 as they cross over. But Rachanov obviously going to be probably jumping Romaniuk with this nice comfortable sort of lead he's got, and Romaniuk right down in the lower points. So as we see John Aracer still managing to keep Jose Jimenez behind. Jimenez probably quite sick of the sight of that rear bumper, John.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to be, pretty sick of the sight of John Aracer's car in front of me. Likewise, John Aracer's probably pretty sick of the sight of a pink Lamborghini hassling him in the mirrors left and right, everywhere else. And Ryan Gill chuckling away in our ears as I'm about to read more stewards' reports. As Jimenez goes to the outside, I will hold off on the stewards' reports for a minute as the gap opens back up again. Outside is not really a favourable place at Brands Hatch in any of these corners with the weird kind of way the circuit flows. It's always good to get yourselves on the inside line into the cambered area and not get yourself caught out. Over the grass goes Jimenez. Aracer nearly touches the grass as they now head through Sterling's, fighting up towards Clearways and Clark Curve. Ethan Scotty just behind him again with a 5-second penalty, looking to make a move on this fight as well. Hopefully Jimenez can maximise this corner, and he does just about stick it with Aracer. Not going to be close enough maybe to fire around the outside. It's a very bold move, especially on Paddock Hill. We know how much it falls away on the outside, and that's exactly where Jimenez finds himself. Ethan Scotty now goes through to have a crack at John Aracer, gets the inside line for Druids. Jimenez still looking to go around the outside. This guy's an absolute madman in this Lamborghini, really fired up, raring to get a move on, wants to try and clear Aracer as much as he can. That's probably going to be a track limits warn in there. Hopefully he's got a few to play with, as most drivers have kept it fairly clean coming out of Graham Hill. I've not seen too many of them running, unnecessarily wide, should we say. But Ethan Scotty now finds himself under pressure from Jose Jimenez as they round down Pilgrims, drop up towards Hawthorne Hill, through Hawthorns. Jimenez still trying to find a move around the outside of that corner. It's just not going to work. Find yourself the inside line into any bend and you will find how easy it is. It just seems like he's overdriving the car to put it in a position where it's never going to work, unless you get the old up and under switcheroo. It's just not going to foresee any profit at all, as John Aracer still driving very defensively into Sterling's. We see him cover off that inside every time. He now goes to the right hand side to of course cover off Clearways and Clark Curvis. Ethan Scotty now tries to do the Jose Jimenez around the outside, and that's going to affect his run onto the main straight. We're now going to see Jose coming towards the outside, towards Paddock Hill, sizing up a move, goes all the way to the outside to try and maximise as much through the corner as he can. Ethan Scotty around the outside, obviously didn't see what happened to Jimenez earlier. It leaves you vulnerable, running up to the top of the hill for Druids. Jimenez still not close enough, and touches from Ethan Scotty to the back of John Aracer. Luckily, both drivers keeping it under control, and Jose Jimenez still at the back of this pack, just saying, come on, I want to get through. The time is running out, you know, just over 1 minute 20 to go. Rachinov looks like he's coming towards to start a new lap, and Jimenez up the inside into Surtees, clears Ethan Scotty, and he's now got to get a real charge on, because Rachinov is crossing the line right now to begin the final lap of the race. Just over, say, about 1:40 with where these guys currently reside in the lap, to try and close to the back of a racer and find a way through. I think this is going down to the wire.
I think we're going to have to be watching this until the final corner. I don't think Ryan's got a lot to do in terms of the casting. I think he just needs to stick on this battle. I don't think there's going to be much else going on in this race. And yeah, as Ryan reminds me that he will show us Rachinov crossing the line to presumably take the win. Commentator's curse not pending. As we see Rachinov obviously on the final lap, currently going through Surtees, as Scotty maybe going to be looking to see if Jimenez makes a move into turn one and see if he can capitalise on it again. Running a little bit further behind though, maybe consigning on the fact that he might finish at the back of these three as they come through to take Druids for the final time. Scotty looking in the background to try and make a move there, running really late on the brakes. He's sort of run himself out of this one now, and it's just going to be sort of a straight fight between Jimenez and Aracer unless they hold each other up, so Scotty can make a comeback, as Aracer will be really happy with this defensive drive so far, John.
Yeah, if I was a racer, I would be very happy with the way I've defended today. Of course, everybody in that mid-pack with a 5-second penalty, so a lot of shuffling around. Add Romaniuk now up to 30-second penalty, but this man here, Bensi Rachinov, takes your round 4 win for the Madness car number 24 as he comes through Paddock Hill. Now we go back to the fight that is on everybody's eyes at the moment. Jose Jimenez finds himself still behind John Aracer. He is running out of time, just 1, 2, maybe 3 corners at most, and he closes right up to the back coming through Sheen Curve. John Aracer goes defensive like we've seen him time and time again in this race, and now Jimenez has got a great run out of Sterling's down towards Clearways and Clark Curve, side by side. Jimenez to the outside, John Aracer on the inside. A little rub forces Jimenez wide over the curb into the grass, and unfortunately Aracer will just about hold on to that position, although 5-second penalties and a very aggressive move at the end of the race there from Jose Jimenez. Very, maybe frustrated is the word for that one. We're going to see a few penalties shuffling people up and down the grid. We will, of course, get your final race results when everybody has crossed the line. We've got Daniel Crimson just coming in now for Cuscio, Martinez, Kumpu, and Cal, who is unfortunately in the pit lane. So as we wait for a few drivers to cross over, just looking towards my sheet of paper of notes, and I'm pretty happy. I've covered everything in a chill way. We of course have a little message from our partners as always at the end, but we shall wait for everyone to cross the line. But great racing here at Brands Hatch. We knew it would be very good, Callum. Typical old school circuit makes it very tricky to overtake, and you've really got to be brave, as we saw Jimenez around the outside many a time, unfortunately not making it stick this time by. But of course some great racing nonetheless from all the drivers tonight.
Yeah, I did predict last week that Brands Hatch was going to be an interesting race with a lot of contact. Just the nature of the circuit sort of tends itself to these battles, as we've seen, sort of 3 cars running line of stern and causing each other to lose time, gain time, and sort of shuffle about quite a bit, as we saw with that Aracer battle, as I believe the scoreboards are slowly setting themselves out. So we should be seeing the race standings coming up soon. See how these penalties have affected all of the drivers. A couple of drivers there right at the end with some quite sizable penalties. I'm seeing a couple of 30 seconds, a couple of 15-second penalty, and a 30-second stop go as we see the championship, the race standings.
Yeah, so Ventsi Rachinov takes your race win tonight with a fastest lap as well. So crucial for championship points. 8.7 seconds down the road, Marquez finds himself in second, and Andy Boardman promoted up to third. Tom Shipston, big gainer tonight, qualified P11, finds himself in P4. Schmid, there we saw your first of the penalties handed out, 15 seconds, took him down to P5. Matthew Kingston Lee, Matt Stevens, think they were just about ahead of the John Eraser fight. John Eraser, Jimenez, Scotty, no change there. Roscam down in P11. Lopez Garcia, P12. Tornberg finds himself shuffled down a little bit to P13. Daniel Crimson, 14. Facuccio, 15th. Adam Romaniuk with a big 30-second penalty there, down in 16th. Martinez as well, I believe, in P17, again, 30-second penalty. Nico Kumpu, P18. Cal was a stop-and-go 30, which I believe he did try and serve towards the end, as I did see him in the pit lane. Les Stevenson, unfortunately, not finished. Cal didn't finish either. P19, Les Stevenson and Jordan Daly. And Carlos Calatayud. I'm hoping I'm getting there. Spanish lessons from Ryan Gill. I think we're getting there. But that is how you're... that is how you're...
Incorrectly, and he's jinxed him.
Definitely. That is how you're 22. I'm inventing 10 drivers out of nowhere. That's how your 22 drivers finished tonight. And great racing up and down the grid. Again, we had a few close moments, a few penalties handed out from our live stewards. Once again, thank you to those guys for giving up their evening. Currently, we have Bart, Daniel, Andreas, Connor, Jake, and Tom Watts in the box. And of course, Ryan Gill behind the cameras, Callum Kerwin alongside me. And just great racing. That's all I can really say. It was, it was a bit of argy-bargy, but everybody kind of gave as good as they got. We saw a racer very, very aggressive on defense. We saw Jimenez very aggressive on attack as well. So fair's fair as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's a classic sort of Brands Hatch sort of race. I cast my mind to seeing some stuff on social media of the I believe it was the British GT race and the carnage down at turn 1, I believe, from this weekend, I believe it was. Am I making that up, or am I seeing an old clip that I've remembered? But yeah, massive night for the stewards, obviously, with quite a lot of those 5-second penalties being handed out, but. Some fantastic racing and some really good pack battles that sort of tend themselves to single car championships. You get everyone running in the same machinery in it, and it runs really, really well. Especially on a circuit like Brands.
Yeah, a format we proved, the second time now. We had the Genetic Cup just last season. That proved some great pack racing as well. So, of course, if you do want to get involved in anything that we have on offer at RCI, you can, of course, head on over to the website racerci.com, where you can feast your eyes on a selection of events, including the RCI 6-Hour Challenge Esports Series with 5 rounds, 50 teams, limited tyre sets, a custom BOP, and a forecasted 5-figure €10,000 prize pool. The series aims to showcase the absolute best of what sim racing has to offer on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And in case you missed the announcement just a few weeks ago, Fanatec are confirmed for a little giveaway on our broadcast for that, so keep your eyes tuned into RCI TV, where you can catch all the action that has to offer when it begins. And if paid esports leagues are not your thing, but you still want to follow the same format, we do have a non-paid, no prize pool event running alongside as well, which will run on alternate Saturdays. So if you do want to get involved, grab yourself some friends, sign up and pick a car. And of course, we do have a couple of iRacing events going on. The multi-class GT4 MX5 cars starting this week. I believe on Tuesday, tomorrow being our first iRacing event. Same format follows at Okayama as well on the 11th of February for those of you that love to drive around in circles turning left. We've also added an event with the Charlotte 75, 50 laps around Charlotte Motor Speedway, in the Street Stock Car Series. And of course, if you are new to iRacing, we do have a couple of codes available for you guys, new accounts only. We have a 3-month free trial if you just want to dip your toe in the water to see what's going on. And if you do want a whole year, we do have an offer of $49.99 US available for new accounts only, both offers. If you do want to, sign up for a whole year of RCI iRacing, you can find details on how to claim these in our Discord server. You can, of course, find a link in the description below. And of course, none of this would be possible without you guys at home, obviously tuning in to our Mondays, Fridays, and anything else that we decide to stream on RCI TV. We are very thankful for your viewership, and of course, a little subscription and a little like goes a long way with the YouTube algorithms. Of course, everything you want to find RCI on is available in the description below. We have Facebook, Discord, Twitter, Instagram. So if you do want to follow any behind the scenes of RCI, do so over on our social medias. And lastly, a quick message from our partners, AK Informatica, for providing our server solutions here at RCI. However, they also provide high-end hardware, peripherals, and accessories, including sim gear. So if you are in their target market and looking to pick up some new gear, be sure to check them out. We, of course, have driver61.com, where through RCI, you can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code with a link in the description below, heading on over to driver61.com. And lastly, but not least, Fanatec, your one-stop shop for the best sim racing equipment on the market. You can, of course, use our affiliate link in the description below, and it won't cost you a single penny, but it does help us here with the running costs at RCI. We can chuck 50p of the meter occasionally for the servers to keep running and all that good stuff. Of course, Mondays, as always, it's great. It's great racing. We do, of course, have one more round for next week where we head on over to Spa, where hopefully we're going to see the championship come to an end. We're going to see some drivers moving and shaking to try and get everything they can do to maximize their championship run in the last round. Those that haven't picked up enough points along the way but still have a shot at it, definitely be tuning in for that one, because it should be a good one. But from myself, John Dalton, from Callum Kerwin alongside me, and from Ryan Gill behind the cameras, and of course all of our live stewards from Monday night, we wish you farewell. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and we hope to see you here at RCI TV for our next broadcast. Take care of yourselves.